You women only want one thing. My son's bank account, Eleanor declared in front of everyone, convinced she had finally put her daughter-in-law in her place. Yet Amina only smiled, a quiet and unsettling smile that shifted the entire atmosphere in the room. Amina knew something the Hayes family could never have imagined. The true power in this household did not belong to the people doing the mocking, but to the woman they tried so hard to belittle. And a single locked safe would soon reveal every hidden truth they feared. If this story intrigues you, support the channel and tell me where you're watching from. Amina Carter stood in the center of the apartment she shared with her husband, Daniel Hayes, and slowly exhaled. The soft glow of the dining room lights revealed a table prepared with careful intention. She had chosen muted colors for the plates and simple flowers arranged in a short glass vase, hoping the Hayes family would interpret the effort as elegant rather than ostentatious. Her 29th birthday was not meant to be grand. It was meant to be a small gesture of peace, a chance to soften the divide between her and Daniel's family. A divide that had persisted since the wedding and showed no sign of closing. Daniel adjusted a candle that did not need adjusting. Nervous habits always surfaced whenever his parents were involved. He glanced at Amina with a smile that tried to reassure her, although his own eyes betrayed tension. "They will behave tonight," he said. Amina returned a polite smile. "I hope so." The doorbell rang. Daniel opened the door with a cheerful greeting, but the Hayes family entered as though they were appraising a property rather than visiting their son and his wife. Eleanor Hayes stepped in first. She carried herself with the posture of a woman accustomed to being obeyed. Her eyes scanned the apartment without a word of appreciation. Her husband, Richard, followed behind with a quiet nod and a gaze that drifted from the artwork on the walls to the quality of the furniture. Their daughter, Madison, walked in last. She held her phone up, already recording her surroundings for social media. She barely looked at Amina at all. "This is quaint," Eleanor remarked. Her tone was not openly insulting, but it carried an unmistakable sense of superiority. Amina greeted her with warmth that went unreturned. They moved to the dining table, and Amina served the dishes she had prepared. She tried to focus on the pleasant aroma and steady rhythm of conversation, but the remarks came quickly. "These plates look temporary," Eleanor commented as she touched the ceramic surface with a faint wince. "You could have used our family silver. It would have elevated the setting." Daniel attempted a laugh. "We like a modern style, Mom." Eleanor lifted her wine glass toward Amina. "More, dear. Let us see if you appreciate this vintage. My son always chooses such bold wines." Amina filled the glass without reaction. She refused to allow annoyance to reach her face. She wanted Daniel's family to see a woman who remained composed, even when provoked. Madison finally put her phone down long enough to study Amina's dress. "I saw something like that online," she said brightly. "Very budget-friendly. It is so great that fashion is accessible for everyone now." She said it as if she were giving a compliment. Daniel shot her a warning glance, but she shrugged and returned to her phone. The tension deepened with every minute, yet Amina held on to hope that the evening could recover. She had endured worse, although not on a night that was supposed to celebrate her. Then Daniel rose with a smile and placed a wrapped box in front of her. "Happy birthday," he said softly. Amina opened it to reveal a rare handbag she had admired long ago, but never mentioned again. The gift touched her, but she barely had time to feel that warmth before Eleanor let out a cold laugh. "Oh, Daniel, such a generous man," she said. "You should be careful. Some women do love kindness, but others love a healthy bank account." The room fell silent. Amina felt the words settle on her skin like ice. Daniel froze beside her, unsure whether to defend her or attempt to smooth over the situation. Eleanor continued cutting her food with perfect calm, as if she had said something ordinary. Madison, still filming, whispered into her phone as if narrating to her followers. "Gold digger vibes," she murmured with a smirk. Amina placed her fork and knife gently on the plate, her movements deliberate. She lifted her gaze to Eleanor, who waited with the confidence of a woman who believed her judgment was final. "If you believe I am here for money," Amina said, her voice steady and quiet, "then tonight will show you how wrong that assumption is." The remark did not come from anger, but from a decision forming deep inside her. She realized that nothing she had done, no effort to be gracious or understanding, would ever be enough for this family. They had judged her long before they stepped inside her home. This birthday dinner had never been about celebration. It was a trial, and she had been sentenced before saying a word. As the evening ended, the Hayes family left with polite farewells that felt like glass splintering in her chest. Daniel kissed her cheek and whispered, "I will talk to them." She appreciated the sentiment, but no longer believed that talking was enough. Something inside her had shifted, not with bitterness, but with clarity. She looked around the apartment she had tried to fill with warmth and realized that the night had given her more than insult. It had given her the answer to a question she had avoided for too long. It was time for the truth to surface, and she would be the one to bring it forward. The apartment felt heavier after the Hayes family left, as if their judgment still lingered in the corners of the room. Amina Carter moved slowly through the dining space, lifting plates and gathering utensils with care. She did not rush because the movements helped her steady her breathing. Every clink of silver against porcelain echoed the sharp remarks from earlier. The wine stain on her silk dress had dried into a dark patch that drew her attention each time she looked down. She remembered the moment it appeared, when Madison brushed past her with a careless smile and a murmured apology that did not sound sincere. The stain remained as proof of the evening she wished she could forget. Daniel approached from behind and touched her shoulder. His voice carried an apologetic softness. "Amina, I am so sorry about tonight. My mother can be intense. She does not always think about how her words land." Amina kept her eyes on the dish she was cleaning. She wanted to respond with grace, but disappointment sat firmly in her chest. "She meant every word, Daniel," she replied. She did not hesitate. She did not even try to hide it. Daniel sighed and moved beside her. "I will talk to her tomorrow. She needs to understand that she crossed a line." She set the plate down and looked directly at him. "I do not need you to apologize for her. I need you to understand what your silence felt like." Her tone was not harsh. It was weary, as if she had carried the weight of this conversation for far too long. Daniel opened his mouth to explain himself, but her phone vibrated on the counter. She recognized the name on the screen and felt a small sense of relief. "It is Jada," she said. She stepped aside and accepted the video call. Jada Thompson appeared with her hair tied back and her expression full of concern. Jada had been her closest friend for years, a woman who never softened the truth, but always offered it with loyalty. "Tell me everything," Jada said. "Start from the moment those people walked in." Amina allowed a faint smile to break through. Jada's directness was comforting. "They made themselves at home the way inspectors would. They looked at everything except me," Amina explained. Jada narrowed her eyes. "Did Eleanor say something?" Amina hesitated for a moment and then nodded. "She called me a gold digger. She said it in front of everyone, as if it was a fact that needed no debate." Jada let out a long exhale. "I knew that woman had no boundaries, but I did not think she would go that far. How did Daniel react?" Amina paused. "He did not say anything. He was shocked, but he stayed silent." Jada rolled her eyes. "He needs to learn how to stand up. You keep giving him chances because you believe he will grow. At some point, he needs to meet you halfway." Amina leaned against the counter and folded her arms. "I wanted to believe they would treat me differently if they thought I had nothing. That was the point of this experiment. I wanted to see their real selves. Tonight proved everything I needed to know." Jada nodded slowly. "You hid who you are for 2 years. You lived simply and never mentioned the trust, the investments, or your foundation. And for what? To be treated like a burden in your own home?" Amina lowered her gaze. "I needed clarity. I needed to understand whether Daniel could love me without the expectations that come from wealth or influence. I wanted to know whether his family would ever accept someone they believed had no power to offer." "And now you know," Jada replied gently. "So the question is what you plan to do with that knowledge." Before Amina could answer, another message appeared on her screen. It was an image sent by Jada earlier that evening. "I sent you something," Jada said. "You should look at it again." Amina opened the image. It was the poster for the annual gala hosted by the foundation she had created. The center displayed a photograph of her, taken months ago during a project visit. The caption announced that the mysterious founder would finally appear publicly. Her name stood boldly beneath it. Daniel noticed the poster and stepped closer. I thought you were only volunteering at that event, he said, surprise tightening his voice. Amina turned off the sink and faced him fully. I am not only volunteering. I started the foundation. I funded it. I directed every program it launched. Daniel stared at her confused. You never told me that. You never asked, she answered. Her voice remained calm but carried a firmness he rarely heard from her. I wanted to see how people treated me when they thought I had nothing to offer. Tonight proved that your family sees worth only in what benefits them. Daniel looked overwhelmed. I am not like them, he insisted. Amina held his gaze. I want to believe that. I truly do. But your silence tonight said something I cannot ignore. Jada spoke again through the phone. The gala happens tomorrow, she reminded her. The world will finally see the truth. Maybe it is time your husband saw it too. Amina straightened and felt a quiet strength settle within her. The experiment that had governed her choices for 2 years was ending. She was tired of shrinking herself to earn basic respect. Tomorrow, she said, they will see who I am. She ended the call and set her phone down with care. Daniel watched her, unsure of what his next words should be. She did not need him to speak. The moment was no longer about apology, but about what she would choose to reveal. Amina walked to the bedroom to change out of her stained dress. As she closed the door gently behind her, she felt a shift in her own heart. The truth had waited long enough. She would not hide anymore. Tomorrow would begin her new chapter. And this time, she would not hold back. The gala hall shimmered with soft lights that reflected off the polished floors and filled the space with an atmosphere of quiet grandeur. Amina Carter stood near the entrance, speaking briefly with the event coordinator, a tall man named Adrian who had helped her manage the foundation's largest programs for nearly 3 years. Adrian admired her for her discipline and compassion, although he had never spoken of it aloud. He greeted her with a respectful nod. Everything is ready, he said. The video will play before the introduction. Amina thanked him with a calm smile. She felt steady, although her heart carried the memory of the previous night's humiliation. She was no longer hiding. She was no longer trying to fit into a space that was never meant to welcome her. Across the room, the Hayes family arrived. Eleanor walked with slow confidence, wearing a gown that demanded attention. Richard followed with his usual quiet authority, while Madison filmed their entrance as if the gala existed for her content. Daniel lingered near them, offering a polite greeting to guests but constantly glancing around the room in search of Amina. When he found her, he felt a mix of relief and apprehension. He had no idea what the evening would bring. Amina kept her expression neutral when they approached. This is quite an event, Eleanor remarked. She scanned the room with judgment disguised as curiosity. I had no idea it would be this elaborate. It is pleasant to see our son associated with respected organizations. Amina nodded without comment. Her restraint surprised Eleanor, who seemed ready to interpret any reaction as a challenge. Before the conversation could continue, the host called for everyone to take their seats. The hall dimmed. The screen lit up with a series of testimonials from students and families who had benefited from the Foundation's programs. Their voices filled the room with sincerity. A young woman spoke about how the Foundation funded her internship. A father described the relief of receiving tutoring support for his son. The impact of Amina's work appeared clearly in every frame. Richard leaned forward as he watched. I had no idea the Foundation supported so many people, he whispered to Eleanor. Eleanor shrugged, unwilling to show interest. These places always exaggerate, she murmured. Daniel felt something shift inside him as he listened. He had always known Amina cared deeply about helping others, but he had never realized the scale of her influence. He watched her from the corner of his eye. She sat upright, her face composed, though he sensed the weight she carried. The host returned to the stage. Tonight we honor the founder of this remarkable foundation. She has chosen to remain anonymous for years, but she has agreed to step forward at last. A ripple of anticipation passed through the crowd. Please welcome Amina Carter. The spotlight illuminated Amina so suddenly that the Hayes family froze in a single moment of pure disbelief. Eleanor's fingers tightened around her clutch. Richard's jaw fell slightly open. Madison lowered her phone by instinct, uncertain whether to record or hide. Daniel stood slowly, shocked yet strangely proud. He looked at his wife with new understanding, realizing how little he had grasped about her world. Amina rose from her seat and walked toward the stage with quiet strength. She did not rush. She did not shrink. She accepted the award from the host and turned to face the audience. Her eyes scanned the room until they found the Hayes table. She did not hold the gaze for long, but the message was unmistakable. "Thank you," she began. Her voice was steady. "The purpose of this foundation has always been to support those who are overlooked. Many people are judged by assumptions rather than truth. Many are dismissed before anyone has taken the time to understand them." She allowed her words to settle before continuing. "I have seen how quickly people assign worth to others. I have seen how painful it is to be misjudged. And I have learned that true value does not come from status or wealth. It comes from how you choose to treat those who cannot give you anything in return." The room erupted into applause. Several guests stood. Amina stepped back from the podium with grace, refusing to look triumphant. She had not delivered the speech for vengeance. She had spoken from the truth she carried. As she left the stage, the applause continued. Eleanor remained seated and rigid, her expression frozen in a mixture of confusion and humiliation. Madison appeared stunned, unsure whether she should hide or applaud. Richard looked at Amina with an unreadable expression, but something in his eyes suggested the beginning of doubt about the beliefs he had accepted for years. Almost immediately, a guest with a steady hand uploaded a clip of her speech to social media. Within minutes, the video began to gather views. A woman at a nearby table whispered, "This will go viral. People need to hear this." Another murmured, "Whoever treated her poorly will regret it." Amina knew nothing of the video's fate yet. She simply returned to her seat with calm dignity. Daniel looked at her with genuine awe. "You never told me how much you built," he said softly. Amina folded her hands in her lap. "I waited to see if knowing would change anything," she replied. Across the room, someone gasped as the clip gained traction online. Screens lit up at several tables. Madison glanced at her phone again and watched the views rise. The comments poured in, praising Amina while criticizing anyone who had doubted her. The tide had begun to turn, and the Hayes family had no idea how powerful that tide would become. The morning after the gala arrived with a strange stillness. Amina Carter woke earlier than usual and sat by the window of her apartment, watching the gentle shift of morning light. She felt calm, although a quiet tension lingered in her chest. The truth had been revealed, and she knew the consequences would soon follow. Her phone lit with dozens of notifications. Friends, acquaintances, journalists, and strangers from across the country praised her speech. Many messages came from young women who saw their own experiences reflected in her words. Amina read a few comments, then set the phone down. She did not want admiration. She wanted peace, or at least a path toward it. Daniel stepped into the room with a troubled expression. "Everything is exploding online," he said. "People keep tagging me. They keep tagging my family." Amina waited for him to continue, sensing his turmoil. "Some are calling us elitist," he said. "Some are comparing what you said to things my mother has said in the past. They think you were talking about her." Amina looked directly at him. "I never said her name." "I know," Daniel replied, "but it feels like everyone assumed it." Before she could respond, his phone rang. Eleanor's voice burst through the device, even though he had not put it on speaker. "Daniel, do you understand what your wife has done?" she shouted. "She used that stage to embarrass us. The entire city is talking about this. People think I mistreated her." Daniel pressed his fingers against his forehead. "Mother, please lower your voice." "I will not," Eleanor said sharply. "You need to fix this. She must make a statement, something that clears our name. I will not allow her to ruin our reputation." Amina could hear the desperation in her voice. It was not the desperation of guilt, but the desperation of someone losing control. Daniel ended the call, exhausted. "My mother believes you planned everything," he said. Amina remained silent for a moment. "I did not plan how people would react," she said gently. "I spoke the truth. That is all I did." The next call came from Richard. His tone was calmer, but his message was the same. The fallout threatened partnerships. Investors had questions. A public relations advisor from his company, a woman named Lauren, even suggested reaching out to Amina for a coordinated statement. Daniel listened to his father and hung up with a defeated sigh. Amina watched him closely. "You do not have to carry their fear," she said. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck. I know, but it is difficult when they blame me for all of this. She approached him and touched his arm. You are not responsible for what they said or how they behaved. They have to face the consequences of their own choices. The day passed slowly. The clip spread further. By afternoon, interviews and commentary videos analyzed the words she used and the people she might have referenced. A few influencers criticized the attitudes of wealthy families, using the Hayes name, even though Amina had never spoken it at the event. Just as she set down her cup of tea, her phone buzzed with a new message. It was from Eleanor. If you want to remain in this family, you will come to the house tonight. There are matters concerning finances and reputation that must be addressed. The message struck Amina as less of an invitation and more of a summons. She read it twice before sharing it with Daniel. My mother needs to calm down, Daniel said. She cannot continue to treat you like this. She will not calm down, Amina replied. She only understands control. Daniel hesitated. I think we should go, but only if you are willing. I do not want you walking into anything painful. Amina met his eyes. It will not be painful. It will be necessary. That evening, they drove in silence to the Hayes estate. The mansion rose ahead of them, with its tall windows and perfectly trimmed hedges, a symbol of the legacy Eleanor guarded fiercely. Amina stepped inside with composed confidence. She would not shrink today. They were escorted to the formal drawing room by an older attendant named Mrs. Dupont, who had worked for the Hayes family for decades. She greeted Amina with unexpected warmth and whispered, You spoke beautifully last night. The small gesture eased some of the tension in Amina's shoulders. Inside the drawing room, Eleanor sat upright in a velvet armchair, prepared like a judge presiding over a hearing. Richard stood near the fireplace with a stiff posture. Madison sat on a love seat, tapping her fingers nervously against her knees. Her eyes avoided Amina entirely. Eleanor gestured to the center of the room. Stand here, she instructed. We have much to discuss. Amina exchanged a glance with Daniel, then stepped forward. Eleanor lifted a stack of papers from the table beside her. Your speech created unnecessary trouble, she began. Our family name is being dragged into conversations we never agreed to join. This document outlines the terms we expect you to sign. It will protect our finances, our public image, and our future. She extended the papers toward Amina. If you truly are not a gold digger, then this should not bother you. Daniel looked horrified. Mother, this is not acceptable. Amina should not have to sign anything. Eleanor dismissed him with a sharp glance. This is between me and your wife. Amina took the papers and scanned the first page. It demanded that she renounce any claim to Hayes assets, refrain from using the Hayes name for professional purposes, and agree to remain silent about family matters in perpetuity. The document did not simply aim to protect the family, it aimed to reduce her to a figure without value. She set the papers down without expression. You are overlooking something important, Amina said calmly. All of this assumes that your family holds all the power, but there is a room in this house that holds a very different truth. Eleanor's lips tightened. What room? She asked. The study belonging to Samuel Hayes, Amina replied. The one that still contains his safe. The room fell silent. Amina could feel the shift. She had chosen her moment, and they all sensed it. The moment Amina mentioned the safe, a deep tension spread across the drawing room. Daniel looked at her with confusion, but Richard reacted first. His brows lifted, and something flickered in his eyes, something close to recognition. Eleanor, however, maintained her hardened expression and folded her arms. What nonsense is this? Eleanor demanded. Amina met her gaze calmly. It is not nonsense. Samuel Hayes entrusted something to that safe. He told me about it before he passed. You may not remember our conversation, but I do. Eleanor scoffed. Samuel trusted only family. He would never have involved you in anything of importance. Richard cut in quietly. He did mention safeguarding certain documents. Eleanor turned sharply toward him. Do not encourage this. Amina stepped forward with composed certainty. If you have nothing to hide, we can go to the study now. There was a long pause. No one wanted to move, yet no one dared to refuse. The weight of Amina's confidence unsettled the hierarchy that Eleanor had always depended on. Finally, Richard gestured toward the hallway. Let us settle this. The group walked through the silent corridors of the estate. Amina felt Daniel walking close beside her, tense and unsure. She could tell he wanted to ask questions, but he remained silent. She did not blame him. He had always been taught to avoid conflict with his family. That pattern was breaking tonight. Mrs. DuPont, the longtime attendant, emerged from a side hallway when she heard footsteps. She looked surprised to see the family heading toward the study. "Is everything all right?" she asked gently. Amina nodded. "We need to open something." Mrs. DuPont gave her a small look of encouragement. "I understand." The study door creaked open. Dust had settled on the shelves and the room carried the scent of old books and memories. Amina had been here once, years earlier, when Samuel invited her to discuss an outreach program. He had treated her with rare kindness, and she had never forgotten that. At the far wall, concealed behind a framed landscape painting, was the large built-in safe. Richard helped lift the painting aside, revealing the steel door. Eleanor stepped back and crossed her arms. "Even if you know the code, it proves nothing. Samuel could have left outdated documents inside." Amina approached the safe with quiet resolve. He left something current, something he wanted protected from the very people who believed they already owned everything. She placed her hand on the keypad. The numbers glowed faintly. She entered a date that no one else would have known. Her own birthday, which Samuel had asked about during a dinner years ago, adding that important dates should never be forgotten. The safe clicked open. Silence filled the room as the heavy door swung outward. Inside were 3 neatly stacked folders and a sealed envelope with her name written in Samuel's careful handwriting. Eleanor's eyes widened. "This is impossible," she whispered. Amina lifted the first folder and handed it to Richard. "These are updated documents regarding the company's ownership." Richard opened it and his expression tightened. "This assigns a significant portion of Samuel's voting shares to a trust overseen by you," he said slowly. Daniel stepped closer. "Why would he do that?" Amina answered gently. "He believes someone outside the direct family needed to preserve the company's values. He told me he feared internal conflicts, and he trusted that I would protect the company with fairness." Eleanor shook her head, refusing to accept the truth. "You manipulated him. You convinced an old man to hand you power." Amina closed the safe door with calm control. "I never asked him for anything. He came to his own conclusions. He saw how people treated those who could not benefit them. He wanted someone who understood dignity." Madison slowly approached, driven by curiosity overriding her fear. "What is in the other folders?" Amina opened the second folder. "This contains reports of financial instability from years ago. The company was close to being sold during a liquidity crisis. Samuel wanted the truth recorded." Richard swallowed hard. "We kept that quiet. Very few people knew the depth of the issue." Amina looked at him steadily. "I knew because I helped. I supported the company through a fund that hid my involvement. Samuel insisted that if the truth ever needed to be revealed, these documents would show who kept the company afloat." Eleanor pressed her hand to her chest, stunned and enraged. "You think this changes anything?" "It changes everything," Daniel said unexpectedly. His voice was quiet but firm. "You spent years believing the worst of her, while she protected this family more than any of us ever have." Eleanor stared at him, betrayed by his shift in loyalty. Amina turned to the final envelope addressed to her. She opened it and unfolded the letter. Samuel's familiar handwriting filled the page. She read silently for a moment and then looked at Richard. "He wrote that he trusted me because I never tried to impress him. I only showed respect. He believed respect is the foundation of leadership, something he worried was fading within his own family." Richard closed his eyes briefly, absorbing the truth. Madison took a cautious step forward. "I did not know you were involved like this," she said. "I did not know you cared about the company or anyone in it." Amina met her gaze with unexpected gentleness. It was never about being seen. It was about doing what was right. For the first time, Madison lowered her head. Shame softened her posture. Eleanor remained rigid, refusing to yield. "This does not give you authority over me," she said. Amina replied with calm finality. "I am not seeking authority. I am setting a boundary. I will not allow myself to be diminished, especially when I have earned far more respect than you ever offered. Daniel reached for her hand. She is right, he said quietly. This ends tonight. The balance in the room shifted. The Hayes family could no longer pretend that Amina was powerless. The truth inside the safe had changed the ground beneath them. The study remained silent long after the safe door closed. Amina felt the quiet settle around her like a final curtain falling. The truth had been delivered, and the family stood in the aftershock, each person processing what they had learned. Richard slowly placed the folder on the desk, his hand lingering for a moment, as if he needed to steady himself. He looked older than before, as if the weight of Samuel's decisions had finally reached him. Madison remained near the doorway, her expression subdued and conflicted. She kept glancing at Amina with the uneasy realization that her past behavior no longer felt defensible. Only Eleanor refused to yield. Her posture stiffened, and her chin tilted upward with the same defiance she had worn since the moment she first met Amina. "This proves nothing," she said. Her voice carried a brittle edge. "My husband made decisions under pressure. These documents are an insult to the family. They must be contested." Amina met her words with calm endurance. "They are legally binding. Samuel took every precaution." "He was manipulated," Eleanor insisted. "He would never have handed this kind of power to someone outside his own bloodline." Daniel stepped forward. "Mother, stop. There is no conspiracy here. You have treated Amina with contempt since the day you met her. Samuel saw that and wanted to keep the company from falling into the same patterns." Eleanor turned toward him sharply. "And now you defend her against your own mother." Daniel held his ground. "I defend what is right." Amina watched him, recognizing the struggle he had carried for years. Daniel had always been torn between loyalty and conscience. Tonight, for the first time, his choice was clear. Eleanor looked around the room as if searching for someone who might still support her. Richard avoided her gaze, and Madison stared at the floor. The isolation struck Eleanor, yet she persisted. "So what now?" she demanded. "Are we supposed to bow to her? Is that what you want?" Amina stepped forward with controlled composure. The years she had spent enduring subtle judgments and quiet humiliations had brought her to this moment, and she was determined not to waver. "I do not want you to bow to me," she said. "I want to be treated with basic respect. I have not asked for anything more than dignity." Eleanor's eyes flashed with resentment. "You have torn this family apart." "I have not torn anything apart," Amina answered. "The cracks were already here. I simply refused to keep pretending they did not exist." Madison lifted her head slightly. Her voice was small but sincere. "Amina is right. We all saw the way she was treated. I did not want to believe it mattered because I wanted the attention. But it was wrong." She swallowed hard. "I am sorry." Amina regarded her thoughtfully. "Thank you for saying that." Eleanor glared at her daughter. "Do not apologize for telling the truth." But Madison shook her head. "I am apologizing because I finally understand what kindness looks like, and none of us have shown it." The tension shifted, pulling the room into a deeper reckoning. Amina drew a steady breath. "We need to decide what happens now," she said. "I am willing to stay in this marriage. I am not willing to stay in a toxic dynamic. I am not here to threaten or punish anyone. I only want clarity." Eleanor lifted her chin again. "What kind of clarity?" Amina looked directly at her. "You must choose whether you can respect my place in this family. If you cannot, then Daniel and I will separate ourselves entirely. That includes withdrawing the support I have provided. I am prepared to walk away from the company and the marriage if I must. I will not remain where I am treated as inferior." Daniel stepped closer to her. "Amina, I choose you. I choose this marriage. I choose the life we should have had from the beginning." His voice trembled with sincerity. "I do not want any future that requires you to endure pain." Amina felt her chest tighten. She believed him. She saw the conviction in his eyes, the break from his old patterns. Richard approached them slowly. "You do not have to walk away," he said quietly. "Samuel believed in you. I should have listened to him more closely. You protected the company when no one else could. You protected the values he cared most about." He paused. "I respect you. That is the truth." Eleanor looked at her husband with disbelief. "You would turn against your own family?" I am not turning against my family, Richard said. I am recognizing someone who has acted with integrity. Eleanor tightened her jaw. She refused to accept that her control had fractured. You have no idea the damage she has caused. Amina answered with a calm that disarmed even the hostility in the room. The damage did not come from my actions. It came from years of prejudice disguised as concern, tradition, or love. I am done absorbing it. She reached for Daniel's hand. We will create our own distance for as long as we need to. That is our decision. Eleanor stared at them both, her expression shifting from anger to a hollow disbelief. For the first time, she truly seemed alone. Madison hesitated before speaking again. Amina, if you are willing, I would like to learn more about your foundation. I want to see what you do. I want to understand something bigger than this house. Her voice carried a sincerity that surprised everyone. Amina answered gently. We can talk about that when the time is right. Richard stepped aside, allowing Amina and Daniel to exit the study. They walked through the hall in silence, leaving Eleanor behind with the truth she refused to accept. When they reached the front door, Daniel stopped. Thank you for not giving up on me, he whispered. Amina looked at him with a soft, steady gaze. I never wanted to give up on you. I only needed you to choose who you wanted to become. Together they stepped outside. The air felt different. It carried a quiet promise of a life no longer shaped by fear or judgment. The night that had begun with confrontation ended with a quiet victory that belonged entirely to Amina.